All right, hello. If you are just joining us, we are doing part 3 of our pastel technique chart. What students have in front of them for today? They have their own set of oil pastels from the pastel drawer. In that drawer, you also will find baby oil. We are sharing these one per table. Everyone has their own Q-tip from that same drawer. We have a toothpick that students are sharing at their table just for today. And then, as always with pastel or charcoal, we like to have that paper towel with the wet corner folded in if needed, okay? So, what we are going to do, though, first, in this section, we are going to test out the pressure, and we're going to compare that. It's a little greasier with oil pastel than chalk pastel. We're going to use, for me, I'm using orange and blue, two complementary colors. You can use either yellow and violet, or you can use red and green. Those are some nice pairs, okay? So we're going to do some pressure here, blending here. You are not using a blending stump for oil pastel. You are using a white oil pastel for blending. And then we'll do white, orange, and blue for me. Those are the colors I'll be using to create a deeper gradient here. In this last box, we'll test out a little bit of baby oil for thinning out that oil pastel and blending. Then we'll revisit these 3 techniques with those sphere drawings, and then finally finish quickly with that sgraffito or scoring technique with a toothpick, okay? So this will go pretty quick. We're going to start out with our first color. For me, I'm using orange, making sure it is nice and clean before I apply it. So I'm using my paper towel if needed, just to make sure it's nice and clean. And I'm going to feel out the pressure in the texture of this new pastel. So starting at the top left corner, I'm putting medium pressure on it. And you'll feel that as you go down, it's slippery, but still when you lift to create that gradient, exposing the white of the paper over here, it still has a grainy look to it. In the next box, we're going to do the same thing to start. Starting at the top left corner, medium pressure. You'll see that it blends pretty nicely when you layer. And then we're going to lift to reveal that white of the paper at the opposite side of that square. Now, you'll notice that in this set, that the white pastel is the shortest one, meaning we use it quite often because it is used for blending. Before you use it, I want you to make sure that it's clean before you use a certain color with it. And you can always peel a little bit of that paper. Don't peel all the paper off, but just a little bit at a time if you need to expose more of that pastel, okay? But I want you guys to keep that paper on it as much as possible for people who like their fingers clean. With that white pastel, we are going to start at this bottom right corner, and we are going to then blend upwards, okay? So you're going to see that you can smooth out. You can go in little circles, side to side, up and down, whatever direction you want to get a nice, smooth, blended transition here. And as I'm getting up towards this area, I might go in and pull in some more orange and white. And you can always flip back and forth to get the look that you want. So that is a nice thing there. All right, in our third box, we are going to do the same thing we just did in the second box here. We are going to start out with that first color, medium pressure, creating a nice gradient with control by lifting, less pressure. Then taking white to blend on this end of that section. Then I'm going to stop kind of in the middle, okay? So I just did this area with white to kind of blend it out. And I'm going to fill in a little bit extra orange right there. For this dark corner, just like we did above, we're going to use the complementary color. For orange, I'm going to use the dark blue. And I'm going to start in the top left corner, and I'm going to then fade that into my orange by lifting it as I go, okay? Now, right away, it doesn't look extremely blue because I have that complementary color underneath. It kind of looks like a brown, kind of more neutral. You can go in with that orange afterwards if you want to make it look more dark orange instead of brown. So you can always flip between your colors to make that nice transition. All right. Now, with that first color, in this fourth box, we are going to simply do a squiggly line diagonal with one color, and I'm going to do a little friend next to him, squiggly line with the complementary color. And in this box, I want you to listen very closely as we use baby oil. Now, before we get the baby oil out, I want you guys to notice from last hour, this is what I did last hour. I used a teeny tiny bit of baby oil and it still soaked through my paper. This is a thick tag board I'm using too. So I want you to be aware that when we are using baby oil, you have to use a very tiny bit. It goes a long ways. And I need one person at your table to grab that baby oil, make sure it's facing upwards, and you are going to slowly open it. Now, when you're opening it, I want you to pinch the base of it pretty hard, and then you're going to take your left hand and you're going to pop that up with some control. Don't let it fling. Good. Now, if you set it on the table, it might tip over because that lid is a little heavy. So just be aware of that. And you guys each have your own Q-tip. You can use that on the rim of your baby oil just to get a little bit applied to your Q-tip. Do not dunk it in the oil because again, that'll be too much oil to use. Or you can just do it around the rim right there just to see that it's on the tip of your Q-tip. So make sure everyone has a tiny bit of baby oil on there. And I'm going to actually close that completely for now, just so it's not tipping over or spilling. And with that Q-tip, you are going to go over one of those colorful lines, and you're going to see that it thins it out, and you can even pull it outwards, and it blends it. Now, because of that binding agent for oil pastels being oil, it thins out that pigment. If you want to use the same side, you can, or you can carefully dip the other end of your Q-tip in for the other color. That's up to you. I'm just flipping mine a little bit. And you can do the other color. And just see how nicely that blends out and thins it out. Now you can always do this as an underlayer, and then you can build up more layers of oil pastel once that's dry. But that is an option for you for your drawing of choice. You don't have to do this technique, it's just an option. Good job, guys. All right, but we are done with that baby oil, so let's make sure it's pressed down and closed completely. I'm going to say that again. Closed until you hear that click, all the way down. I see some people that still not clicked down. All right, good. But we're done with that. We're gonna then wrap up our technique chart by doing 3 spheres and our sgraffito. So let's take that first color. We're gonna do a quick sphere down here, drawing a circle lightly. If it's a little wonky or egg-shaped, don't worry. And we're gonna then go side to side for that cast shadow beneath the circle. And practicing that pressure with a grainier style, we're going to then press down, curve, curve, curve. Lifting, lifting, lifting to expose that white of the paper. Thicker in the shadow area, okay? In the next box, we're going to do the same thing, starting out with a light sketch of a circle. Cast shadow side to side. Thicker layer at the base shadow area. Light dusting towards the top. Because remember, we are going to switch to our white pastel. And you're going to use that to blend it out, so it looks smooth. Just like so. We're going to do what we just did in this box as well. So again, going back to our first color, drawing a circle. Side to side for that cast shadow. Doing a curved layer, thicker towards the base, thinner, and leaving white of the paper in the highlighted area. And in that highlighted area, I'm going to use my white pastel. Blend, blend, blend. I'm not going to use it down here though. I'm going to use instead that complementary color to push the contrast further. So starting out in the cast shadow, I'm using blue. And you can do a little bit of blue on the shadow part of the sphere too. On my sphere, it looks really, really blue. I can go over it again and blend out finishing touches with orange one last time. No pressure if yours looks a little different than mine. And voila, we have a little bit more contrast. All right, and then to wrap up our technique chart, you should have a toothpick at your table. You are simply going to practice a transition from one color to the next. We are going to do our first color diagonal, medium pressure, about this far down. Switching to the other color, starting at the bottom, working your way up. Medium pressure, and you're going to overlap them in the middle. Now this technique of scoring requires a pretty thick layer of pastel to have good results. I like to have a light color first and then a dark color over top, because what you simply do is take your toothpick and you scratch away. And you can do this texture with fur or hair or just some fun designs or mark making.
I can scratch like this.
So I'm just using a toothpick right now, and you can scratch away, creating whatever mark making you want, okay? So just to demonstrate that for our last box. Now, we are finished with our technique chart, but before you start cleaning up, I want to make sure you know what to do. So again, baby oil, very important that you make sure it clicks and it's on completely, the top. Before you put your pastels away, wipe off your white pastel for future people. So wipe off with paper towel, just do a little twist in that damp section. I feel like that works pretty well. And then put that back so that people don't ruin their own drawing because you left it messy. And then you could do that for a few other lighter colors too. And then you'll be ready to slide that back into here and put it in your drawer, okay? Now, because we use pastels today, remember you do need to wipe down all tables and put back baby oil where it belongs. Thanks for those watching the video. That is it.